Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are bringing you one of the most remarkable stories of human determination and transformation, a story that proves how the strength of the human spirit can overcome even the most impossible obstacles. This is the story of Helen Keller, a girl who couldn't see, couldn't hear, and couldn't speak, but whose courage, intellect, and perseverance turned her into one of the most influential voices of her time. Born on June 27, 1880, in Tuscumbia, Alabama, Helen was a healthy child at birth, but at 19 months old she fell severely ill, likely with scarlet fever or meningitis, and the illness left her both blind and deaf. From that moment forward, she was trapped in silence and darkness, unable to communicate, express her thoughts, or understand the world around her. Her early years were filled with frustration and confusion. Imagine being a young child with a growing mind but without any way to connect to people or ideas. She became increasingly wild and unruly, lashing out because no one could understand her. Her parents, desperate to help her, searched for a teacher who could find a way to reach their daughter, and that's when Anne Sullivan entered the picture. Anne, who had herself suffered from near blindness and came from a troubled background, was just 20 years old when she took on the challenge of teaching Helen, and their relationship would become one of the most legendary teacher-student partnerships in history. When Anne arrived at the Keller household in 1887, she knew that before she could teach Helen anything academic, she had to break through the barrier of communication, and she did that using a method called finger spelling, in which letters are spelled out into the palm of the hand. At first, Helen didn't understand what Anne was doing. To Helen, the letters meant nothing. But then came the famous breakthrough. Anne took Helen to the water pump, placed one of Helen's hands under the flowing water, and spelled out water into the other. Suddenly, something clicked. Helen realized that the letters meant water, that words were symbols for the world around her, and with that single breakthrough, her entire life changed. She became hungry to learn, and within months she knew hundreds of words. From that moment on, Helen's progress was astounding. She learned to read Braille, to write, and eventually even to speak, despite the fact that she had never heard a sound. With Anne by her side, guiding and interpreting for her, Helen pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible. She went on to attend the Perkins School for the Blind, then the Wright-Humason School for the Deaf, and eventually Radcliffe College, where she became the first deaf-blind person to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree. Her education was not easy. Imagine trying to follow lectures when you can't hear or see, but she worked harder than anyone, constantly studying with Anne's help, using raised type, finger spelling, and touch-based learning to absorb knowledge. Helen Keller didn't just stop at education. She became an outspoken advocate for people with disabilities, using her voice to change the way society treated those who were blind, deaf, or otherwise marginalized. She gave speeches, wrote books, and traveled the world. She met presidents, kings, and global leaders, all while championing the rights of the disabled and fighting for better education, healthcare, and employment opportunities for all. She became a symbol of hope and courage for people everywhere. But her activism didn't stop with disability rights. Helen was also a suffragist, a pacifist, a socialist, and an advocate for racial equality. She believed in justice and dignity for all people, regardless of background or ability. During a time when women were still fighting for the right to vote, when racial discrimination was rampant, and when people with disabilities were often hidden away from society, Helen Keller stood up and said no. She demanded more. She used her writing and speaking to promote causes that mattered deeply to her, never afraid to challenge the norms or criticize injustice. Over the years, she authored 12 books and countless articles, including her famous autobiography, The Story of My Life, which became an international bestseller and has inspired generations since. Helen's life was full of challenges, health struggles, societal rejection, misunderstandings, but she met every obstacle with grace and fierce determination. Her partnership with Anne Sullivan lasted nearly 50 years, until Anne's death in 1936, and during that time, the two traveled to more than 35 countries, spreading their message of resilience and hope. Helen Keller received numerous honors during her lifetime, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom, one of the highest civilian awards in the United States. She was also named one of Time magazine's most important people of the 20th century. Yet even with all the fame and accolades, Helen remained grounded in her mission to help others. She helped found organizations like the American Civil Liberties Union (ACLU) and worked closely with the American Foundation for the Blind. Her life became a testament to the idea that disability is not inability, that the mind and spirit can thrive even when the body faces limitations. She refused to let anyone place her in a box, and instead became an example of what's possible when a person is given the chance to learn, grow, and express themselves. Even today, decades after her death in 1968, Helen Keller's legacy continues to influence educators, activists, and students around the world. Schools teach her story to remind children that every voice matters, even those that can't be heard in the traditional sense. Her work has shaped public policy, inspired film adaptations, and led to greater awareness about accessibility, inclusion, and empathy. The story of Helen Keller is also the story of Anne Sullivan, the teacher who refused to give up. It's a story of belief, of what happens when someone believes in you so much that they help you believe in yourself. Together, they showed the world that education isn't just about books and facts, it's about opening the mind, breaking down walls, and reaching the soul. They proved that even when the lights go out and the sounds fade away, the human mind can still shine brightly and make a difference. Helen often said that although she could not see the world, she felt its beauty deeply. Her connection to the world came through touch, memory, imagination, and love. She taught us that sight and sound are not the only ways to understand the universe, that the heart and mind can be even more powerful. So if you're feeling limited by your circumstances, if you've ever felt like your voice doesn't matter, or if you're unsure whether your dreams are realistic, think of Helen Keller. Think of the little girl who couldn't see, couldn't hear, and couldn't speak, but who became a global force for good. She overcame isolation, despair, and physical limitations to become a symbol of strength, knowledge, and compassion. And think of Anne Sullivan, the patient, determined teacher who changed not just Helen's life, but the lives of millions through her work. Their story is a powerful reminder that we all need someone to believe in us, and that belief can be the spark that lights up an entire world. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of this incredible journey with us. If you were inspired by Helen Keller's story, please give this video a like, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories from history. Drop a comment below and tell us what part of her story impacted you the most, and who in your life has helped you break through barriers. Until next time, keep believing, keep learning, and remember, no challenge is too great when your spirit is stronger than your struggle.